Hello and welcome. We return once more for Worldbuilding Wednesday. So, without further ado, I suppose we should build worlds or something? Just finishing up final tests. It has, of course, been a while since we last did some world building, so I'm just double checking, making sure everything is working, of course. Probably missing a few things for setup, but that's just how it goes. Let's just hope our settings aren't too messed up. There we are. Oh, they are. We forgot our map. Where? Huh? Okay, there we are. Nope. There. Okay. Like I said, making sure everything is, of course, working. Ideally. Perhaps not, but that's just how it goes. Let's build worlds. Let's start with our obligatory intro thing, of course. It is, of course, the 26th day of the 6th month of the year, 7894. Of course, that's the abbreviated year. It is like 112 billion or something. I'm not sure. I don't have the calendar in front of me. But, we abbreviate the year. So the year 7894 for ease of use. Being the 26th. Now I'm curious. Let's go over to our lore file. We, of course, are having a World Building Wednesday, so we might as well go over such things. As you may know, our calendar works slightly different than your Elysian calendar. Being the 26th, it is a Friday. Well, I'm sure for you Elysians with your time zones and so forth, it's different. Of course, we go by the Galactic Standard Calendar System based on the capital of the council, specifically the capital city on the capital world in the capital system of of Tavel, the council capital. Of course, being an imperial, things work different. I mean, of course, we have our own thing, but we followed the galactic standard system, so, it just works out that way. Well, enough about time and all that. Let's get to world building. We're going to be covering a lot of things today, probably, as we're just going to go on about a bunch of different topics and see where it takes us. Perhaps somewhere fun? Who knows? So, where to begin? Well, I'm your host, Casimir Basilius, as per usual, Imperial Lord, and proud runner of, 3 star systems or so? It's hard to keep track. Well, given that we're invading a Dyson swarm and all that, it does get confusing. I say worlds, I mean systems, We don't really own the Dyson swarm system, so it's not really under our control, but, we have enough stations in it that it might as well be worth a normal star system. But unfortunately, in the Empire, they count total control of a system and not partial control, so it doesn't count even if it's a star system's worth of people. Let's see here. This, of course, is the city we were working on. We work on a part of the city for our solo campaign. But I think today we're going to do a lot of other things. Just some base world building. Save all that work for Solo Sunday, in which we run the campaign. Well, I say Solo Sunday. It's Sunday for us. It's like, what, Friday for you Elysians? Once more, time zones. As I always explain, our calendar does work different than yours. Which, I mean, of course, this is called World Building Wednesday, but it's Friday, and then, you know. Anyway. So, I think we'll cover a lot of things here today, probably. At least that's what I intend to do. I forgot one thing, and that's to get my dice within range. There we are. Now that we have our dice, where to actually begin? Well, let's hop on over to the world map. Is this the right one? Yes. Welcome to our world. Well, galaxy map, let's be honest. It covers the galaxy. The blue line being the edges of the galaxy, of course. Kind of hard to fit squares in a circle, but, you know. And within the galaxy, there is what we call civilized space, or the core nations, right here. I know they're not in the galactic core, but, I mean, it's not really important. The galactic core's here. But we have the imperial capital Birchworld. Unfortunately, it's no longer as intact as it used to be. It is shattered. Probably, maybe. I cannot confirm or deny that. Never mind. Ignore my previous statements. I am not a traitor to the Empire, and my statements about the status of the core Birchworld are to be disregarded currently, immediately. I'm sure in our broadcast they will be beeped out. So, you know, ha ha ha. Anyway, the core's over there, basically. But we call this core space because it's where the core nations are, all throughout here. So, we have some work to do on them, work to do on a lot of things, but we'll mostly just ramble today. So, where to begin rambling? Oh, I suppose we could start with what we've been working on. We have a new news series. We're going to do a galactic news series. It's in the works. And by it's in the works, I mean the first episode is completed. I absolutely despise it, but it's completed and ready to be sent out. It is going to be sent out on your December 4th. On Monday, we should start our weekly news series broadcasts. We are going to have a small video next week. And then on December 4th, we begin our weekly news broadcasts. And then theoretically, on January or February, we shall begin our lore series. So that's our plans for them. We will, of course, be covering in-depth dives into the lore. Basically everything you could possibly want to know. Well, not everything. There's too much to cover that. But, you know, basically a unreasonable amount of detail on any individual topic, starting with FTL. I'll tell you, we originally were going to start with the basics. We were originally going to start with a series. Well, we're going to start the lore series with a broadcast about Galactic Standard, the system we use. Well, not the not the dice system, but the galactic measurement system and the galactic standardization system, hence galactic standard. But I'll tell you the truth. I sort of went on a tangent when writing the script of galactic standard and just started rambling about conspiracy theories and how the galactic standard system is strange and how the Empire actually was more heavily behind it than galactically advertised and all that. And basically our conscripts started giving us weird looks and we were like, okay, we'll have to redo that. So we'll start with FTL. FTL is just as important because it's how we travel around the galaxy, you know? So we sort of swapped over to a galactic standard system for it. Well, no, we swapped from galactic standard to FTL because, well, the entire galactic standard script needed a rework where I don't ramble about the conspiracy theories of how galactic standard was founded and all that. So besides, FTL's a bit more important, if you ask me. Covering how we travel around the galaxy seems a bit more important than how we measure things, at least from an outsider perspective, you know? For people who live in the galaxy, I mean, they already know galactic standard. And for you outside, I mean, what? You want to know how things are measured? I mean, we'll get to it, but it's not like it's as important to society, well, to outsiders looking at society than here's how you travel around the galaxy. Seems a bit more important, you know? Besides, I have gone on rants and rambles about how I believe that a standardized series of rules are important, more so than galactic standard. I mean, like travel rules and just rules for a world are important. And in a setting that takes place all throughout space, I thought maybe FTL would be more important to start with. We will, of course, have lore dives into societies and factions and everything, pretty much everything. That's the great thing about our news and lore series. With our news series, we can just give you insight into the galaxy. It'll be fun. You'll get like inside perspective on the galaxy with our news series. Here are news events, you know? And with our and you'll be able to see how the world is living and all that, and how things are happening all throughout the galaxy. And with our lore series, that's going to be monthly. I mean, we have infinite, basically, might as well be considered infinite topics to, well, news. We literally have infinite news. But for lore, we have a practically endless supply of lore videos to cover. But lore videos, while theoretically less ambitious than our future plans for our news series, are surprisingly harder to make. From a inside the galaxy perspective, all I need to do is look at the news and present it to you. From a inside of the galaxy lore perspective, I need to gather all the lore, format it into a video, make sure I don't miss a topic because how else am I going to fit it in, and get a complete breakdown of how it all works. I mean, the lore is already there. It's not like I need to write it, but I need to, you know, like make it presentable in a format that I can give you all the details possible without missing anything, you know? I don't want to miss out on, I mean, I can't, I don't, I mean, I can do whatever I want. I'm an Imperial Lord. They can't stop me. But I don't want to, you know, like, give away our lore series ahead of time. But I mean, we literally talk about world building here, so what does it matter? We've talked about it all before. It really doesn't matter. It's literally just to put it in one place so it's easier to find in one place. So it really doesn't matter if we talk about what it all is in it. Besides, I mean, I get why other people have the, oh, I can't talk about the project, oh, I can't talk about the project. But I generally despise that from an outside perspective. But from a actually working on the videos perspective, I see why they do that. I see why they do that. I still despise it, but I see why it's important. For instance, I can't tell you about the news. I can't tell you about the news coming up because, well, it it's news. It's that week's news, so I can't tell you what the news is going to be about. But for the lore, of course, I can tell you about the lore series. I can tell you all about that because, I mean, from a inside the galaxy perspective, we have the data. It's not like I'm presenting something that's just happening. But with the news, I am presenting weekly news, so I can't tell you what's going to happen. I can tell you our topics, and I don't mind. Like I said, I despise the whole, oh, I can't tell you about the project I'm working on. I hate that. So I'll tell you. In our news, we're of course going to cover our main galactic events, a political event in the galaxy, some galactic opinions on whatever topic of the week there is, some news on the current state of the galactic war, an inside look at an industry, a sponsored segment, of course, not a galactic sponsored segment, of course, which isn't new. I already know who our sponsor is. So I don't know what news events there are, but I know who our sponsor is. So I can happily say that our sponsor is going to be Point Combat Templates, the best in military equipment. Well, I mean, yes, the best. I'm not going to speak bad of our sponsor. The best in military equipment. And then an inside look at a citizen's life, an opinion piece by yours truly, some commerce and economic coverage, and then a small, very local news story to close out our news event, our news broadcast. But that's going to be our format. You might spice it up, might remove some, add some. Who knows? Depends on our weekly, well, whatever happens. So that's going to be fun, I hope. But as I said, our lore series, we can always talk about the stuff in that. But basically, yeah, we're going to cover FTL because that's more important. As I said, I've ranted before about how solid rules and laws are important in a world. So I thought traveling the galaxy, relatively important. We'll also cover societies and all of that good stuff. Of course, let's see. There will be videos on basically every faction, probably, at some point. We need the basics first. Travel, technology, casting. That's magic, by the way. Well, what you would consider magic. Not all casting's magic. We don't even consider it magic mostly. I mean, there's arcane casting, which is magic. Then there's psionic, which, I mean, then again, what we consider magic differs. Like I said, we call it casting, but like there's psionics and arcane and divine and other like eldritch and so forth, and it all gets complex because it's energy fields, but they're hard to explain by science, so might as well call it magic. But basically, there's an entire series of that to cover. We can cover the data net and hacking and just network law. A lot. There's a lot. Starships, production lines, all that. But we're here for world building. Today, of course, as stated, will be a bit less world buildy, even though I always want to actually do more world buildy stuff in which we actually build worlds, stat things, write paragraphs, all that. This time I'm going to be just talking more about things. And for those of you who don't know, I mean, like I said, it's not like we're hiding the way things work or anything. Just because it's in our lore series doesn't mean we don't talk about it. Is this it? No. Frontier. Yeah, well, as you can see, FTL lanes. 1 second. Are things still working? Yes, good. Okay. So we have the Sacred Grove sector. One of our easiest examples that I don't need to import of a sector's FTL lanes and all that. But we will be covering a bit more than just lanes, FTL methods, gates, travel, all of that. And the dangers of FTL, of course. For instance, don't be exposed to FTL. It's bad for your health. You need shielding for that. Or you'll die. Yes. Now, I had plans of things to cover here. What shall we cover? I kind of wanted to work on a bunch of different things. Talk about numbers and stats and factions and all that. Now that I think about it, I should have come up with a bit more solid plan. I was considering just showing a bunch of other things, but then I realized I don't really have a setup or solid plan for that. Oh yes, the Dyson station, the Dyson Swarm station. This, I mean, I don't think we've ever seen it here. Although, I mean, I might have popped on the map before. This was where our first streamed solo campaigns took place with our character Eshadon. Something or other. I don't know. I don't keep track of the people we follow. I'm an Imperial Lord. Some random citizen in the galaxy that we just happen to watch for entertainment. Why would I remember? I can probably hover over. There. Eshadon Candido Okoro. The former adventure that we followed for a while. But, now we follow Juliana Aldous. And in the future, we might follow others. And that's kind of what I wanted to do today. Have a brief look at a bunch of different things. I mean, we don't really have maps for these things available. But, I mean, we don't really need maps, do we? To be fair, I do happen to be a huge, huge nerd who does often, basically daily, do some play-by-post with comrades. Play-by-post, for those of you who don't know old school board game and tabletop terminology. I mean, you probably know what play-by-post is, but if you don't, it's where it's all done in text. Sometimes we send images, but it's literally all done in text. Usually, well, back in the day, we ran in person back when tabletop RPGs were pen and paper RPGs. And, actual tables were involved and pens and paper and all that. And then, digital era came along. Now we do it digitally. But there was a time in which there weren't really wide access to nice programs for virtual tabletops and the like. And back then, play by post. You'd send messages back and forth and all that. And, drawings and images. But back in those days, sending images was painful. I'm sure if you know early Elysian networks, sending an image was waiting for it to load line by line and all that as it loaded up on a internet. But that's just how it was. I mean, I've always wanted to, but we've basically never actually run with, all the oldest school play by post, which is playing by literal mail. You know, you write it out in a letter, put that letter in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and mail it to the person. Then again, that wouldn't really work in tabletops, given that there's so many people, you'd have to send out copies and all that. So, never really done that. But early internet posts and the like. At least that's how they say they used to do it at Catskov Industries. So, let's see here. So yeah, a lot of it, we probably won't have a map form, but we can talk about this stuff. I really need to streamline everything. Not mechanics-wise, never mechanics-wise. I consider, on occasion, streamlining game mechanics just as an alternate. I like complex mechanics, but I like having an option to theoretically streamline them. Theoretically, but I like the complexity. Let's see. When I say streamline here, I mean the fact that I have like 20 specifically online files and then just open. I don't mean like in total. Open to run this. And then I have genuinely like 40. I'm not going to count all of them. 40 documents open. Which is why whenever I go to find something, it takes a while. But I mean, like, if you want I can't display it really. But if you want an example, I mean, Galactic Requiem coded profiles update 2023. Mercenary organization campaign. Altnet site archives. NPCs, animals, and creatures book. Sector 20 West 3 fact sheet. Frontier Sacred Grove and Deep Frontier fact sheet. Military organization sheet. Secondary Merc campaign file. Vehicle and starship construction. The lore book. Casting arcane, divine, and other magics guidebook. The big book of world-building scraps. Weapon, armor, and item catalog. Etc., etc. So, you know, like, there's literally like 40-something of them open. Not really the most organized, but and also a pain to scroll through to find the right file. So, let's see. Basically, basically, everything, as I think I've been over before, everything has stats. Well, I've been over this too before. Galactic Requiem is here to simulate a living universe. So we do a lot of rolls, calculations, that kind of thing. Usually when there are campaigns running, we also do non-campaign ones. What I mean by that is, for a campaign, I think I've been over this here before, map only is really necessary. We calculate around a campaign as time passes in that campaign. So if the players are in a sector and something's happening, we'll calculate it a bit. See what's happening around them. On a overall Galactic Requiem scale, we will do random minor events, as you'll see with our news series. But we also do major things when we do the math for it. For instance, the Galactic War. Big progress, little progress, all that kind of thing. Large-scale galactic economics. What's Omnicorp doing? Point combat templates. Our sponsor. You know? Let's see. I mean, to be fair, it's not like we need to take money from point combat templates. I'm an Imperial Lord, but, you know, if they want a segment on the news, we'll give them a segment on the news. Let's see. But yeah, everything has stats from organizations to characters to creatures. And we try and make sure that there are rules for everything. But often, I mean, as much as it's never, ever going to be seen, I like the small details. I mean, you know, like, how do I put it? That's one of the reasons we run our solo campaign. Personally, I am quite fond of wandering, looking at the small details, describing this wall, you know? What are they selling at the food court? What is in this place? Who are the people that work there? All that kind of small details. Usually in a campaign, you know, your players are going about on adventures and all that, But I personally just enjoy the small details. I like the descriptions. I like describing the walls. Why not? The situations, where things are placed. That I like doing. And you'll see more projects of that. We have lots of projects in the works, but, you know. And I'm contemplating starting a new, I mean, of course we'll keep Juliana all this. until something bad happens. Of course, given that we run with the bot, I'm not sure what will happen to Juliana all this. As in, like, she could get shot and killed. I don't know. But, of course, we'll try and keep her alive. And adventuring and all that. But I want to also look at other things, Look at other parts of the galaxy. I want to run a business. I want to show running a business. I want to show a conflict in deep space. I want to show a space battle. I want to talk about life on a space station. I want to see the battlefield. All of that. But I also want to talk about mapping. Building interiors, setting up encounters, all of that. Talking about, world design and game design. That's the thing here, though. We focus more on world design than we do game design, I'll be honest. As I said, Galactic Requiem, originally a series of stories, technically. But, the system we run is simply there to facilitate the universe that exists, not the other way around. The universe isn't there to facilitate the game's there to facilitate the universe. To partake in it, if you will, with a set of rules and guidelines that are consistent and make sense to the way the world works. And so, that's why I like a lot of rules, because it makes it so things are consistent and work the way they should. But that's like, just because you're doing that doesn't mean that you lack game design. There's a thing to be said about how world design fits into game design. How you build a structure, where the levels are, all that kind of thing. I mean, also the most annoying thing in the universe is layers, which this is actually a perfect example of over here. So over here, you might notice this and this line up. And when I say line up, I mean in a sense of that building's the exact same as this building. There's a reason for that. I don't think this is the right version. No, it's here. No, it's not. It's not the right version, unfortunate. I thought it was the layerable version, but it's not. So basically, this right here is this, but one layer up. As you can see, there's a stairway heading up that leads up to here, and it goes further up. Up and down in tabletop RPGs can be difficult on a virtual tabletop, of course. Unless it's 3D or something, but, those have their own problems to work with, honestly. When it comes to virtual tabletops, personally, I believe 2D, with the ability to drop in images, is superior. Because, 3D gives you up and down capability. There's almost always limited assets in what you can do. Everything even needs a 3D ability, or how you're going to represent the interior. It gets difficult. It has its own series of problems. But so does 2D, because, look here. A layer up is above it. And from here, let's say somebody's standing here. We know they can shoot there, which represents there. Now, like I said, I don't have it available, currently at least. But one of the things we did, take a picture of this, and then overlay it. Well, a screenshot more so than a picture, you know. Overlay it over this, and then shift its transparency. So you can see both layers at once. Theoretically, you can do it multiple times, but basically allowing you to have ups and downs and so forth for shooting from windows and all that kind of thing. One of the more annoying things is measuring distance when shooting up and down and so forth. We have simplified rules for it, but, you know, like the accuracy of it is varied because it gets annoying doing the full calculation of distance when doing that, you know? Anyway, let's see. So, small details, one of my favorites. And it's just not something we have to work on a lot. But we do have every type of campaign. We have business running. We have starship salvaging. We got mercenary battles, entire fleet battles in space between factions, nation running, organization running, on the battlefield infantry scale, individual stuff, adventurer stuff, mass combat leading entire armies, or even just leading battalions and leading all the way down to leading squads and so forth, and basically everything. Rules for in-game political debates and bureaucracy and all of that. And it allows us to run that living world I always talk about. If a player's like, hey, I want to open up a shop, there's rules for that. Hey, I want to try and become a member of the nation's government. They can go through the debate rules and politics rules and theoretically go all the way to running the nation. Theoretically. It's unlikely. I mean, you know, but it's possible. All the way to, you know what? I just want to design the interior of my house, you know? Which we have an example for where? Somewhere. But, you know, like, there's one. Nope, that's the office building. But yeah, I mean, if a player wants to go through the tokens and design a house, sure. Hell, they can design and sell houses. I don't know. Want to start a factory production line? Sure. Want to have business management of an entire factory? Yeah. Want to work on a factory production line using the CRISP system for sort of engagements to make it, you know, like combat-y or more entertaining, you know? Sure. Would rather simplify it and just make your weekly profession check? Sure. Whatever you want to do. Anyway, so what should we cover? What should we actually, like, cover? Um, that's a harder question. Like I said, I don't really have the thing prepared, other than the loose idea. Of course, we can always solo. We have character stats ready for that. Technically, we have character stats ready for anything, and have to open the NPCs and creatures book and find it, or the nations and organizations book and find a stat block. But let's see. I mean, there's still work to be done. I don't mean on like there are a few rules sections that need a bit of clarification still. I put it off. I worked on it for a long time. To be fair, recently I spent like I think it was like a month or two non-stop. Might have been more. It was like a month or two non-stop working on nation and organization rules, making sure they were all refined and so forth. I mean, you were. I mentioned it. I mentioned it to you all when we were working on it. Yeah, basically, I was working on a lot of nations, organizations, refinement, and so forth. And then I started working on stock market rules because that was something we were actually missing. I always ask my players, is there a rule set we're missing? And so I spent like a month after that writing out an entire rule set for the stock market. So, I'm always looking for things that need completing or refining. Of course, there's always refining that needs doing. But I also I have to sit down and make the list. I always view working on rules more important than formatting or listing items. Because we have the rules for all the items, I just need to, for the most part, either edit them, update them, or format them, then throw them in a file so everything's listed. And I really should do that. But once more, I still have things that need refining, rules-wise, and I always view that as more important. So that's something I want to work on more before I work on items and all that. Like I said, it's not like items need work. They all exist. Some of it, okay, that's not even true. That is mostly true. All the items exist. As one of my players, as I explained to one of my players, we have an entire list of like cybernetics. They need updating, so I don't really want to put them in the public file before I update them because that would just cause confusion. If I put unupdated stat blocks in the file that they can use to look at stuff, it'll be like, oh, this costs this much and all, and I'm gonna have to be like, no, 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 no. I haven't updated the cost of that one yet, or that one's stats on that. It needs to be updated to this. So I'm always reluctant to put non-updated stats and non-formatted stats in. Well, I'm not reluctant to put non-formatted stats in. I'm only reluctant to put non-updated stats in. But I only put stats in a formatted fashion. I'm not going to copy them unformatted, and I'm going to format them. And formatting, if you didn't know, is evil. It's eviler than I am. Formatting data is it is cruel and unusual. It's all fun and games until you are sitting there deleting spaces where they should be, hitting enter, hitting space where it needs to be because everything got broken in its formatting because you switched its file type, and then you have to just make sure, like, and it's not once, it's pages upon pages upon pages of formatting. Like, just so many pages of it. It is soul-crushing work. So I always put it off and work on actual rules writing. One might think, surely sitting there working on rules or going into a trance and coming up with a system that works for starship health and all that, or going into a trance and doing the math for speeds of starships moving at high percentages of C is difficult. No, no, surprisingly no. I when I work on rules, I don't I must admit, if I go back and look at the rules I've written, I don't know how I arrived at the end result. I genuinely just sort of get in a mode in which it's possible to write rules that make sense at the time and work, and they make sense afterwards. Don't get me wrong, they make sense afterwards, but I can't redo the work. I look at it and I have to go, what mathematics system did I use to come up with this rule set? What's the breakdown of this? Why does it work? It works, but why? So, there's that. But that's still more engaging than formatting files. Because at least you feel like you're getting something done. Or at least problem solving, you know? You feel like you're getting something done or problem solving. When you're formatting one out of like 500 item entries and just fixing the formatting and updating the numbers, like you already know what the numbers are and what they should be. You literally just have to change the number to the proper one, change the formatting so it fits on the right line and all that. You're not doing anything, you know? You're not thinking. You're just doing tedious work. But eventually, gotta get all that there. So, there's that. So I'd rather work on the systems that have refinement needed. I can't think of any other system that doesn't exist. Hence the asking the players for systems that I'm missing. We have systems for everything, but some of them require refining, as I've said. So, that's something I need to do. Well, something I prefer to do to the other stuff. And then, of course, actually playing the game. It's why we got the solo bot in the first place. Because I could usually never, in the past, play Galactic Requiem. I was forced, not really forced, I enjoy GMing Galactic Requiem, but basically, rarely my original plans, the longest running plans, are qualified theoretically to run Galactic Requiem, but they do so rarely. They prefer playing the game. And I could never, so, because, I have to GM it. On the rare times when they'd run it, I'd be able to play it, but, which is why I like the bot so much. It allows us to play the game. Don't need people. And theoretically, even with people, the solo bot works with people. It's a GM bot, not a solo bot, so it can GM for people, which is always fun. Because I get to play with a group as a player. It's insane. Anyway. Oh yeah, recently also I spent like a month working on refined system generation and tags and all that for our random system generation and all that. So I worked on that, which was fun. It was actually fun. I'm not being sarcastic with that. It needs also work, but it's way less important than like refining rule systems, but it's fun. It's a lot of work, but it's fun because it's figuring out where to place things, how I want things to be generated, all that. And it makes generating things a lot easier. Anyway, we're going to take a quick, like, 2-minute break. We'll be right back. Return. Whoa. Fixed it. There we are. Oh, nope. That needs to disappear. We have our coffee. There we are. So, yeah. Basically, see, no, why? Oh yeah, it does that if I. Sorry about that. So, I mean, we'll just do what we do. Sometime I want to run a industrial chain. That would be fun. Well, that would be my definition of fun. Not sure about yours, but mapping out on city scale a little industrial chain, I would find that quite entertaining. There's also stuff for us to stat and all sorts. Let's swap over to another map. Where is it? Yeah, well, let's go over to my base. Why not? That's fine. Yeah. I was thinking, why is this like that? But it's actually neat because it adds some stuff like extra. Anyway, it's not why we swapped over to here. I'm looking for a specific file. And it's working. That's wonderful. We had some issues the other day. One of our previous streams, we had some issues in which things didn't work entirely. But it appears they are working currently, which is good. Let's see. Oh yeah, we were making a place for here. Attis Specialty Products. One of the largest megacorps of the Terran nations. Attis has a large shipping fleet that operates both in and around the territories of the Terran nations. They have been known to do long-distance shipping into Council territories. News and media, snack food industry. News and media? That's not ideal. I mean, it's what they do. It's not like it's something we're going to change, but that's not ideal given that we're starting our new news series soon. I suppose they are a competing news business. I mean, likely they do Terran Nation news, you know? So it's not like we'll overlap. I mean, space is big. Space is very big. There's plenty of news stories for everyone to cover. Yeah, we did some talk of just world building descriptive lines. Hmm. Yeah, once more, my apologies. I'm not quite sure what we should be or are working on. Not retrieval. We're looking for underground overview. No, we're looking for the one with the base in it. Not that one. This one. Really should name my maps better. Probably couldn't see that because it's behind the dice roller. Like, like 10 of the maps are all labeled the same thing. It's not the best, but you know. I mean, we might as well go to here so we can actually do some stuff while we ramble. So there was a gang we were making that basically works out of the industrial district, basically. I think we did some stats for them. So, you know, I'm curious, where would I have saved that? Because we did that on stream. Yeah, it should be right. Hmm. That's a system chart. I say that, wiggling my mouse, realizing that it's probably not visible, is it? Hmm. Train track. Yeah, this is them. This is their file. When I think about it, oh yeah, that reminded me of something I need to do. I remember I was working on nations and organizations. When we were working on that, it occurred to me that I need a little bit more standardization in explanation of what each nation, not nation, organization scale represents. Needs a bit of refinement. How would they all work? Pretty solid. Works basically perfectly. Running a nation works. There are a few bits of it that need refinement, such as describing what each scale represents. I say nation, I mean organization. What each scale represents, and a little bit of work on, what was it? A little bit of work on actually crisp, integrating crisp into nations and organizations. There was a little bit of math I'm not happy with. Integrating crisp into nations and organizations. Crisp, by the way, is like challenge resolution independent system parameters. Basically, it's what you can use to resolve anything using stats. Basically, if something's not covered, you can use it to resolve. For instance, the debate rules, while they are used for determining who wins lots of political based things or audience sway, there isn't a solid, say, rule for a trade war. For instance, how much damage does one organization do to another organization? Or we'll switch it to character scale because it's easier to explain. Like I said, there's some problems with the organization scale variant. If I'm trying to convince, if I'm trying to, let's go with slander because that's easier to describe. If I'm trying to slander somebody against somebody else, figuring out who wins that sort of argument can be done in two ways. Of course, I suppose you could use the check for it. There's sort of already a check for it, which is why that's not really a good example. Technically, the check for that would be like manipulate slander versus, well, usually that's if there's no, that's a versus check, but it's against the other person. But it's like you're both actively trying to do it. I suppose you could use debate for that. A race is a simpler example. If two people are in a chase or racing each other, basically, how do you figure out who wins? I suppose you could make an athletics check. This rules for everything that's already covered. Theoretically, Chris covers situations that come up that can't be covered by other rules, but we pretty much have rules that cover most everything. Look, it's complicated. Organizations are genuinely the best example, even if the system doesn't work perfectly for them currently. One organization's trying to fight another organization by buying out property, and we don't want to do it with all the math involved. We can make checks using the CRISP system, using the bureaucracy and influence and persuasion, stats and skills of the organization against the other in a sort of mock combat that doesn't deal damage, but basically the winner gets money or gets the property, gets what they want, while the loser costs money or loses or doesn't get what they want, and so forth in using the CRISP system. So it's real useful for it, but there are certain issues because scaling. CRISP was meant for players. Well, when I say players, I mean it was meant for character scale stuff, meaning your stats are probably going to be at most in the 30s. You know, unless you're super AI or something like that, your stats are probably going to max in the 30s. And at that point you're like a super soldier. So, you know, like, I mean, most super soldiers have stats in like 24 or so forth. You need to absolutely maximize to get 30s in your stats. But point is, organizations and nations have like 100, up to 100 in their stats, And technically, if you're using a nation on organization scale, it gets times 10, so like 1,000. Anyway, it breaks apart a little bit there, and determining costs and base limits and the value of certain effects needs to be refined. It works perfectly other than refining values and that kind of thing. And to be fair, I say, the stats will max in like the 30s for a super elite, high tier, best of the best super soldier. But that, that applies to normal Terrans. Of course, us Imperial Lords, having the best technology around, in the galaxy that is, have a slightly higher stats, averaging roughly in the 40s, at least at my current tier of lordhood. As, of course, given that I live in the galaxy here, I mean, surely you saw the previous map we're on. Given that I live here in the galaxy, I too have a stat block. As does, everything in the galaxy. But, that's, by the way, the device we're broadcasting from multidimensionally to you. And our two conscripts who do their best. They do their best. Of course, there's a bit of delay, but our conscripts, they do good work. I mean, keeping everything running and all that, even if they don't entirely know what they're doing, we couldn't do it without them. So, point is, yeah, bit of work on that, bit of refinement. Everything has stats. Some systems need work, need to label down every single thing you can buy, or at least the templates. And, I suppose since we're here, an important question. What is it like to fight an Imperial Lord? Just in case anybody looks over and sees, oh, hey, Basil just said Basil's over there with stats. I have an idea. Because we are broadcasting throughout the galaxy, so, there are people out there who might be like, oh, hey, Basil's over there. Of course, they don't know what a stat is because, fourth walls and all that. Luckily, because we're broadcasting multidimensionally, we can use such terminology. Of course, it will just be beeped out in our home galaxy. But, in case anybody has any ideas, it is not ideal to fight a level 30 Imperial Lord who is heavily augmented. Imperial Lords, at least of our tier, being Knight tier, not Royal Knight, but, like have 2-star systems minimum, Knight tier. Average of 40s, like, personally, my strength is a bit lacking. With a 39, dexterity of 42, very good at shooting. Constitution of 39, int of 35, except when I'm broadcasting, of course. Multidimensional devices do quite ruin my ability to think. Wisdom of 37, not the best. Charisma of 37. So, a bit under the average of 40, but, that's why you don't fight Imperial Lords. We are the epitome of what a Terran can achieve for the most part, using the best tech available, I mean, it's not like I get to do anything. I don't go around, you know? It's not like I'm involved in anything. I'm pretty sure if we ever ran a solo campaign in which I was involved in anything, it would be rather boring, you know? Which is why we follow random people around the galaxy, normal people. Because I mean, we could probably pick a fun fight. You know, it's not like there's nothing for us to do in the galaxy. But if we went out into the galaxy, you know, it's like, let me put it this way. Oh, hey, you need to run from something, Basil. Sure, I'll roll my athletics check. Wow, that's a d20 plus 20 plus 14. No, constitution, because if it's running long distance. Wow, a d20 plus athletics skill of 20 plus constitution 39, which is a plus 14, meaning that's going to be, on average, 44 on my athletics check. You know, like, I'm going to outrun a normal person. I would have to fight an army, or at least several squads. I couldn't fight an army, probably. I mean, you know, volume of fire and all that. I'm not immune to bullets, but that's why I wear powered armor. Not, of course, right now when we're broadcasting, of course. I don't go to the field often. I don't get to go to the field often. But, you know, I am a combat lord. We do have a distinction in the Empire, honestly, between lords who earn their title and lords who are born lords. I did earn my title. I was a conscript back in the day. And then I enlisted, did my time in the Empire, rose to the ranks, was given the opportunity to either leave the Imperial military. Just because you sign a contract doesn't mean you're stuck in the Imperial military forever. I was given the option of signing on permanently and getting augmented as a super soldier, or not. And of course, I went with augmentation. I mean, at that point, I'll be honest, at that point, all my comrades that were at least, you know, around were mostly going in long term, you know, higher career opportunities, less frontline fighting, honestly. But there was still fighting, higher career opportunities, the lifestyle, working with other Imperial troops, you know? So I thought I'd get augmented and go in permanently. Once I was in permanently, you know, eventually rose to the ranks, led a battalion for a while. I wasn't fleet, by the way. I mean, we talk a lot about fleet here. I wasn't fleet. I was infantry. Well, power armored infantry. But yeah, took on leadership. And, well, after several successful battles, I say several, I mean many, many successful battles, I rose to the ranks, was given a mission, served my Imperial Lord, and was granted a system. From that system, of course, I conquered another system, and then another, and here I am before you, a knight. Meaning, you know, Imperial leadership and all that. But I've also been over this before, but the Empire's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Culturally, we have views that we follow, and it's frowned upon to go into the field. Not that Imperial Lords don't, but the number of non-combat lords outnumbers the number of combat lords. Us combat lords, I say combat, but you know, like we earned our title in the field and, you know, We we happen to often look down on other Imperial Lords, while they look at us, like brutes. Imperial society heavily focuses on class and etiquette and all that. And, well, given that it focuses on class and etiquette and all that, it's sort of culturally frowned upon to sort of just rush into the battlefield and take part in all that. Not that it's risky. It's not about risk. I mean, I'm uploaded. I can just swap out my body. If my brain gets exploded, we'll just load up a backup, you know? I mean, theoretically, as long as I have a neural data pad with a mind upload augment, so. I mean, you can get that too. They sell them. If you have a few million credits to spare. Also, if you have a few million, might as well go with full life extension, mind upload, mind backup. That's what's expensive. Mind upload's like a few 100,000. Um, buy a few spare bodies, have a few backups, reload if ever anything happens. I say reload, it's, like load up your saved consciousness into another body. As long as you don't, have multiple active at the same time, the Galactic Bank won't complain at you. But, for instance, I do have one actively used spare body over there, for combat purposes. Because it's annoying to go through doors in a combat body for the most part. Large and usually equipped in powered armor, which makes, like traversing hallways and corridors and anything not designed for aliens. I would say aliens, but, like large creatures, difficult. I mean, it's not like the combat form is exceptionally large. Well, it's relatively large. I believe it stands at like 8 feet outside of combat armor. Well, put that in powered armor, 8 something or other. You know? But annoying to head through doors and all that. Not really something you want to bring to an Imperial party where people are swilling their drinks around and all that, Like I said, cultural standards. So, someday I might put on some combat armor here, but I like my more fancy uniform. Of course, when I'm broadcasting, it gives me an air of officialness. And also other Imperial Lords don't complain at me for you're giving Imperial Lords a bad look. You're in combat armor. Shouldn't you be in something more classy or leadership related? You know? Anyway, enough about me. Let's see. Oh, that's another thing we need to do. I should probably at some point update the stats of my little nation. Because I mean, like that's is it? Should I though? Given the whole map only is really necessary? Is it necessary for me to stat out my personal nation? Possibly. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? What we do need to stat out is our encounters. Where's our sheet? There it is. What do we have listed? Oh yes, last time we met Istor Delta, the gambler. We covered a bit of secured the target, met with Istor Delta. We need to get the target out of the city and come up with an excuse to stay in the city. Could have extraction be impossible. Normally we let the bot decide, but as I said, I really, really, really want to keep our party in the city so we can sort of build it out as sort of like an important place in the leg. I think that's what we'll do. We'll say it's basically, well, when we'll cover it on the solo campaign, but basically we'll insert that when we contact the team to get out of the city, they'll basically tell us that it's just not possible and to hold and maintain operations in the city. That way we can stay and mess around in the city and all that and design it, have fun there for as long as we need for the most part. Then we'll have an entire campaign of just going on missions, hanging in the city. We can do slow stuff. We can do fast stuff, combat, organization, all that. And we also have other projects in the works. I mean, that's not really a project. That's just what we do on our solo Sundays. But we have other projects in the works. I think I've explained. We're working on the law. We're working on the news. What else is there? I have a chart somewhere. Here we are. Oh yeah, miscellaneous projects. I'm thinking about doing a bunch of reads. Basically, I'll just read some old Galactic Requiem work. Basically, story time. We read Galactic Requiem stuff. On occasion. That's going to be rare. It's going to be like, what? Less than once a month? Because we're going to have a MISC project every, we're going to have, theoretically, assuming things work out, weekly news. We're going to have our 2 to 3 streams a week, of course, our weekly news, our monthly lore, and one other monthly miscellaneous project. And for that, sometimes we'll have story time, which will read out Galactic Requiem stories. There's just sort of, because like I said, Galactic Requiem started as stories, might as well read some of them out, see the world. Also, we'll of course run our solo stuff, world building, and we might try and get back into playing some games. I do enjoy, on occasion, playing games. So we might try and do that some more as our third stream a week. We'll always have a normal two, but admittedly we did take a little of a break. I think for like a while. Recently we took a bit of a break. It's not like it was a break. I've just been busy. I mean, we've been over this. We just went over this. I sometimes spend hours upon hours, months upon months, working on rule sets and working on projects and working on other things and writing commissions and all that. So, I did sort of get busy with that sort of stuff, but we'll get back on schedule. I mean, I also run games for others, which, also time takes and schedule and all that. So we'll try and get all that stuff done continuously, story time and some other miscellaneous projects, but those are complex. but we'll try and get a third stream in for games sometimes, and then our normally scheduled stuff, which is our streams and news and lore and miscellaneous. Ideally. Admittedly, it is a bit ambitious, our plans, because, I mean, let's be honest, our conscripts have no idea what they're doing. Our conscripts couldn't figure out how anything works if I put a manual in front of them of how it works. I mean, I don't know how it works either. That's why I have conscripts. But they also don't know how it works, so, you know, maybe a bit ambitious, but those are our plans. Look, I'm an Imperial Lord. Ambition is in the job description, as is just a little bit of a, well, you know. I mean, what does it mean to be an Imperial Lord? No, no. If we're going to do this, we're going to do this properly. What does it mean to be an Imperial Lord? To be an Imperial Lord is to be a leader, a guide to your people, a beacon of the Empire. An Imperial Lord is not just a ruler. An Imperial Lord dictates the way of life in the Empire, upholds what it means to be Imperial, to take over the galaxy and crush all non-Imperial factions, to lead everybody into a better age. An Imperial Lord must stand above others, guide the Empire, to work with their peers, to bring about a more perfect universe. That's what it means to be an Imperial Lord, yes. And if that means we must bombard worlds, if that means we must destroy civilizations, then that is what we will do. For every Imperial citizen should strive to bring the Empire into galactic dominance. Every citizen should strive to serve their Imperial Lord, to make a better world, to make a better universe, to hold back the other factions with their destruction and chaos. That is what it means to be an Imperial Lord. Yes. So, you know, a little bit evil per se, a little bit arrogant, but with a air of status, you know? So, if you have to throw a billion conscripts at something, throw a billion conscripts at something. I mean, they're only conscripts. Yes. They are there to serve the Empire, after all. And if you need to burn a few worlds, well, they aren't Imperial worlds. So, you know. Let's see. Speaking of, Hmm. Oh, that's the problem. I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm clicking a button going, why isn't it disappearing? Because this is what I was looking for. There we are. Oh yeah, I remember. There was a thing we were doing with this that needs to be fixed. But, yes. Oh, despite, of course, all of the, well, the fact that the Empire is the best, and that all other nations out there are, well, illegitimate because the Empire's claim on the galaxy is the only proper claim, then, I'm still a fan of Elysia. What's something neat? Wasn't there? Was, hmm. Anyway, there was one thing I wanted to talk about that slipped my mind, Elysian media-wise. There was some thing that came out. Oh, I remember. I remember. So, one of our plans, theoretically, on our games, when we play your Elysian games, as I said, I am a fan of Elysian culture on occasion. One of the few Imperial Lords that is. Um, we're going to maybe, plans are for our gaming streams to do a playthrough of, because a new edition came out recently. We're going to do a playthrough of Starship Troopers. Specifically, Terran Command. It's a, how do you put it? It's a strategy game, tactics, and all that. I think it's either turn-based or real-time. I forget. But we'll be playing that on our games. Hopefully, I want to sort of do a playthrough of that. And some other things. So, that's one of the ones I'm hoping to get done. Of course, we'll play some more Endless Sky at some point. And some other stuff. What the? Hmm. But yes, so I'm just generally trying to find an entertaining game that I quite enjoy playing that we can, of course, stream. If, I'm also slightly annoyed that I absolutely obliterated my updates and everything, changed a bunch of stuff, and basically, look, my conscripts and I don't know how to set anything up. I need to fix my Angels Fall First setup for streaming because well, I do enjoy that game. I enjoy playing that game all the time. Um, like I say, every game should have bots. Every game should have bots. All of them. If they're multiplayer, they should have single player with bots. All of them. Yes. Angels Fall First, very fun. I'm heavily embarrassed because last time I tried streaming it, the stream system updated and it was just a corner of the screen, and I didn't notice because there's no way of me to tell ahead of time. And then I basically just had just a corner of the screen, and it was terrible, which is weird because it's not like I haven't played it on stream before. It worked before, and it's not because you won't be able to find them more than likely because it's from my old unarchived streams. I really should archive them or something. Anyway, basically, there was no problem with it. I took a quick break, swapped back over to it after a while and a few updates later, not of the game, but of like our streaming system. And I could not get it to display on screen. I mean, I got it to display. I couldn't get it to fit in the screen no matter what I did. For some reason, it was the weirdest thing ever. It just would not fit in the screen at all whatsoever. Even if I like, shifted into the screen, it just didn't. It was so scuffed. So, But, so I've been nervous to stream games because neither I nor my conscripts know how to set anything up anymore. And as far as I know, there's no way. So there's no way for me to check beforehand, really. I suppose maybe recording checks beforehand, but I suppose I could still do it blind with it. Not every game, but I'm big on first time playing a game stuff. Blind playthroughs, they used to call them. I just quite enjoy that kind of thing. I also enjoy playing a lot of games heavily modded. Despite being terrible at video games. Yes. So theoretically we'll play some more games at some point. Really need to fix my schedule now. Being an Imperial Lord involves a lot of business. Doing a lot of things. I kind of also want to play Infra again, even if it is scary as hell. But none of it's archived, so I'd have to, redo it or find where I put those files. So, yeah, that's our plans. Mostly just rambled. Didn't really do much world building. My apologies. But I kind of, I kind of want more coffee. And it doesn't seem, and to have actual lunch. I didn't have lunch at all. I should have. And it would feel weird to swap and do something else. I don't really want to have rambled about basically nothing for the first 90% and then swap to actually world building. That would be weird. I don't know. I have weird ways I like going about things. Next World Building Wednesday will be far more world building, I assure you. We won't ramble, we'll world build. But before that, we're going to have Solo Sunday, which is on Friday, but look, don't ask questions. In which we'll run Eshadon, not Eshadon, Juliana Aldis's campaign. And hopefully we'll have some more special stuff planned in the future. We'll call it here. Monday, December 4th, our new news series airs. First episode, broadcast multidimensionally to you, so you can get your galactic news every week, theoretically. You will get your galactic news. Once more, I am an Imperial Lord. There's lots that can come up. I don't know if I'll be called to send forces to a campaign or something. You know, not a dice campaign, but a military campaign, you know? Sometimes they want me in the field to go bombard worlds personally and monologue at non-Imperials, you know? Sometimes just gotta monologue at non-Imperials. They don't understand the power of a monologue. So, you know, Monday, December 4th, your time, we should have our first news video up. That one pretty much guaranteed unless something goes wrong in the process. So, yeah. I hope you enjoyed our very rambly episode. We'll do less rambling and more world building, more games, more solo tabletop RPG starting after this stream. We thank you for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoyed our rambling. And have a great day.